Segment 2, North Tower Neighborhood News Magazine, a presentation of Sonny Hirsch and myself. Go to the web, ntnm.org, communitypolicingcaps24.org. It is a pleasure to introduce you to another person I got indirectly through Alvin Butte at Facebook, the CEO of the Betty Shabazz Charter Schools, and I'm a big fan of charter schools in general. It's a pleasure to introduce you to David Ireland. How you doing?
Good, Avi. Glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
First of all, thank you for being here. And you know what? I'd like you to tell us about charter schools and the Betty Shabazz Charter Schools.
Fantastic. Be glad to do it. Well, as you indicated, I'm the CEO of Betty Shabazz International Charter School. We're a three-school network here in Chicago. We have a high school. We have two K-8 schools, all on the south side of Chicago. We're doing fantastic. Our schools are level 2 or level 1 as rated by CPS, if that means anything. We've got about 1,000 students. We've got roughly maybe 70 to 80 teachers, and we're doing well. Our graduations just ended, so we had 5 graduations this year, 2 kindergarten, 2 8th grades, and 1 of the high school, and the high school seniors. We're sending all of our high school graduates off to college, so 100% graduation rate, all going off to college.
That's pretty impressive.
It is. We're glad of that, but we're also glad of the 8th graders. The 8th graders, we're getting 52% of them are going to selective enrollment high schools. We'd like them all to go to our high school, but not all of them are going. But they're going to selective enrollment high schools, which means that they'll have a great future ahead of them. So we're what we call an African-centered chartered school. So we're a little bit different than some of the other charter schools that you may see, and that works for us because it's really, really needed in the community that we serve, which is primarily the south side of Chicago, but the communities involve Auburn, Gresham, or kind of in the South Shore area. We also
my old neighborhood.
Oh, okay, all right. You got to come back and visit us sometime.
I wouldn't mind. Auburn Gresham is definitely one of the more dangerous areas.
It is.
So is South Shore.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, and that's why the need is so great there, for what we do. But we also serve the Inglewood community, which is also one of the more dangerous communities in Chicago right now.
Yeah, that was right next door to us.
Right. Yeah, and that's where our K-8 is. And then finally, we're in what they call the Bronzeville area or the Gap area. In the historic DuSable High School building, which is a great facility over there.
You know what they have on the restaurant shows? They go there a lot. It looks like there's some real growth in the community over there.
You are absolutely right. There are a lot of great restaurants that are over in that area. It seems like that's the new mecca for restaurants. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. That usually that means there's some gentrification and a decent middle class and all that.
Right.
So those are good signs.
Right. Yeah.
I remember my father used to tell me 47th Street was one of the streets he hated to drive down the most.
Oh, is that right?
In the old days. But that's in the 60s. I mean, times change.
Right. Well, I stopped. I still go down 47 quite a bit, but I remember when a lot of the blues clubs used to be along 47th Street, and it was a fun time there. But even those have kind of moved on. So. Yeah.
By the way, that's one thing. I happen to be a very big blues fan.
Are you?
We could talk about it off here, but
yeah.
I'm really sorry I didn't hit some of those clubs. But I actually have. I mean, I've seen guys like Muddy Waters.
Okay.
So, I'm a fan.
Oh, we've got to talk then. We've got to talk.
Yeah. Anyway, but let's get back to the charter schools. So it sounds like you guys are doing well. Now, there was actually, there's a lot of people who don't like the idea of charter schools. I don't know if that's just the unions or whatever, but I'm a strong believer in school choice. Mm-hmm. And the fact is the public schools have been failing a lot of people, especially in the areas you're talking about.
Right. Yeah, well, there are a lot of people that don't like charter schools, but I think it's more because there's confusion over what a charter school is.
Yeah, I don't think they know. So why don't you tell us?
As an example, the Uber driver that brought me here, and I was just kind of talking with him. He said, "So how much do the kids pay to go to your charter school?" And I just kind of had to smirk and a little bit, and I said, "Well, it's free. But actually it's paid by the taxpayers' dollars. Charter schools are just a public school that have a different slant, a different approach to education, because the education system that we had in Chicago for many years just was not working.
I think failure's a proper word.
Right, and particularly it was failing in the areas where our schools are serving. And so our school came about because, and we recognized that early, and so we tried to address that even before charters became charters. So we're an outgrowth of the 1960s Black Power movement, the Civil Rights movement, where we recognized that our kids were not getting the fair shake. But now, as a charter school, we're a public school. We're funded publicly. Kids don't have to pay a tuition to get there. We accept all students, no matter what walk of life they're from, or what their level of education is, where they've come from, and we try to take them from where they are and take them to where they should be.
Well, one of the things I like about the whole concept is that there are so many bureaucratic regulations involved. I'm sure you're more than your share too, because you're getting money from the government.
Right.
But the fact is that my understanding is that you have a lot more leeway within the public schools to actually treat a human being like a human being.
You're absolutely right, and that's actually part of our mission. We try to, especially with the African American students that we have there, and we're predominantly, I'd say 99% African American students. We try to remind them and teach them who they are. So it's not just about the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s. That's what I call it. The academics. But it's also about teaching them about who they are culturally and who they are historically. It's about teaching them their African roots. And when I say African roots, I mean African roots. I don't mean just post civil rights. I don't mean just the civil rights era, and I certainly don't mean just the area where Africans were enslaved. I mean going all the way back to Africa and teaching them about the culture and the traditions and the successes and the inventions that the Africans had. And so then they understand their place in the world and how they got to be where they are right now.
I think that's important. And one of the things, and by the way, we could talk a long time about this, but we only have so much time. When I do meet people that come from Africa, and in particular, I'm involved with some of the guys from Sudan and Darfur that came over.
Sure.
And I also know some people from Kenya, other countries too. My grandfather actually had a short pit stop in South Africa.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Okay.
Not for long, though.
Okay.
But the fact is that people in Africa they don't look at the whole nation and continent and label themselves that way. I mean, there are actually nations and cultures within. Now, of course, in America, the great melting pot.
Right.
And by the way, you guys aren't the only ones that have
we have not moved around,
in.
Right? Yeah.
But I can tell the difference between somebody from Sudan and somebody from Kenya.
Sure.
And
absolutely.
It's interesting, but it's so important to. You're right. The roots aren't way back, like in 1820s in Mississippi. The real roots.
Right. That's what a lot of people think. That's where African Americans began. No, not at all.
Yeah.
We were brought here enslaved. And unfortunately, a lot of people didn't make it in the transition. But we had culture, we had societies, we had hierarchy, we had practices that were there, and so we try to bring those to the forefront and remind the students of what they are. And we find that it helps them a lot. Significantly, it helps them to diffuse them, because a lot of our students are angry because they don't know their place, they don't know what they've contributed. And so that helps to diffuse the anger, and then we can start teaching them the 1, 2, 3s.
That sounds good. We're really out of time. Why don't you give us your contact information so people can find out more about the Betty Shabazz Charter Schools?
Absolutely, I'd love to do that. You can contact us at www.bsics.org. We actually have an event that's coming up at the Promontory. If you'd like to come out and listen to some great music, we'll be sponsoring an event at the Promontory in Hyde Park.
Thank you so much. We're really out of time.
Thank you so much, Avi.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. All right.